Welcome to Life Recovery Today, brought to you by New Life. If you're feeling stuck in addiction, grief, anxiety, or broken relationships, you're not alone. Over the next half hour, you'll discover practical tools and biblical truth from the 12 steps of life recovery, designed to help you heal, grow, and thrive. Because recovery isn't just about what you're giving up, it's about who you're becoming. Whether you're new to recovery or looking to go deeper, we have resources to guide you. Bibles, workbooks, devotionals, and real stories of transformation. You can start your journey today on your own, in a group, or through your church. Visit newlife.com or call 1-800-NEW-LIFE to take the next step. This is your time for healing, hope, and freedom. This is Life Recovery Today.
Hi there, Steve Arterburn here, and welcome to Life Recovery Today. I am holding in my hand the New Life stress ball. Why? Well, we thought it would be fun and also just an acknowledgement to our people that we know sometimes things can be stressful and you just need to do a little exercise there. You know, a lot of people think that people become addicted because they don't do stuff like this and they go and drink or drug or whatever, sex. Well, I think everybody is kind of doing that, the majority of people, but only a select few, for whatever reason, trauma, biological predisposition, a lot of other things, that the addiction occurs. It's not just some kind of weakness, it's a lot of different things. And to assume weakness on yourself, I think it's a problem. You know, there are some times when we're so confused and overwhelmed by pain, we're not just looking for something, but we really wish we could die. And no matter what we do, well, we're powerless to change that. We just can't make things better. The weight of our pain and sadness, many times it just seems too heavy to bear. And we can't see why our heart doesn't just break and allow death to free us from it all. It's not really that we want to die so often, it's that we want to be free from the pain. Well, on today's show, Dr. Sherry Keffer, oh my goodness, she has helped so many people. She's going to talk about how to ask for what you need. Very important skill in life. Dr. Keffer, well, she's been a co-host on New Life Live 4 years. She's an author, speaker, PhD in marriage family therapy, Master of Arts in theology. And I just think that some of her stuff is some of the deepest, richest stuff, and especially when it comes to obstacles in communicating your needs. Because many times in life we lose our voice, or we don't think we have a right to use the voice that we have. And then some of us literally are in situations where people are shutting down the voice that we have. And she studied this for a very, very long time. She wrote a great book, Intimate Deception. And that book has helped so many people who have been betrayed and pushed down by people who they are lacking sexual integrity. She got some great insight. I think you're going to like this. So let's hear what she has to say right now about the obstacles in communicating whatever it is that we want to share that we need. Listen to this.
Sherry Keffer here, and it's great to be with you all today. I thought it would be great to talk about how to ask for what you need. And I don't know why it's so hard for many of us to actually figure out what we need and then ask for it. But I'm going to be doing a series on that today, and hopefully something that I share might make sense to you enough that you can begin to make some changes. So the first part of this is, why is it difficult to say no? You know, it's like when we were 2 years old, we had no problem saying no, right? Or if you have a 2-year-old, you know, it just comes out of their mouth. No, no, no. And yet when we're in a situation that's really difficult and we're having to stand up for ourselves, it's as if we never learned the word in the first place. And so, in essence, what we're looking at is boundaries and how to put a defining line down, and then how to ask for what you need. But why is this little word, NO, so difficult for most of us? And so I'm going to look at some boulders that often get in the way. And I would call these blocking beliefs. These are things that you might think, believe, kind of have hidden in your heart, and you don't even know that they're stopping you from actually saying no. So the first one that often comes up is when you think about the person you need to ask something of, you're already making a decision. You're already thinking that that other person's going to say no. And so it's like we don't even get out of the start gate. If I believe that this other person's going to say no, then why try, right? And so I often say the first step is to think about what you need and what you want. Now, it can feel really selfish to say, what do I need? And what do I want in this situation? But oftentimes it may not be selfish because we're not coming as a demand, like you better give this to me or else, right? It's more of I need this because it's going to benefit somehow. It might even be an area of self-care. And in many situations, in my book, Intimate Deception, Healing the Wounds of Sexual Betrayal, I wrote a chapter called No is a Complete Sentence. It's actually self-preservation. You know, maybe you have a husband who is looking at pornography, and there's a boundary you need to put down because you need to figure out who's responsible for the problem. And so the first thing we often need to look at is who's the owner of the problem. Now, sometimes it feels like us that we're the owner, but actually, if they're the one that's looking at porn, they're the owner of it at that point. The second thing we need to ask is who's in control of that problem. Again, sometimes it feels like we're in control, but actually we're not. The other person is in control of whether they're acting out or not. But we have to figure out what I can make choices about. And then the third thing we need to look at is who's responsible to fix the problem, right? Again, it goes back to ownership. And so figuring out that and then deciding what you need in light of that is really important. And so when you wonder about what I need, I often ask people to say, well, what's the benefit to you? And is this need something that's worth fighting for? How is this need going to change you? How might it change the situation? How might it change your relationship? Is it worth fighting for? If you can think about those things and maybe even what you need in order for it to get done, then that helps you define the reason to ask. If I am not able to get what I need, what's the impact that that's going to have on me, right? And so it's important to know what we need and to look at what other boulders are in the way. So here's another one that's common that is in the way of keeping us from getting what we need or asking for what we need. And that's the belief that I don't deserve to ask. And oftentimes I see this in folks where we've grown up in possibly in a home where there was alcohol addiction. And in that family, maybe the one parent that's been using alcohol is raging, or maybe they fall asleep on the couch in a drunken stupor. And so you haven't felt seen, you haven't felt heard, you haven't been noticed. In fact, there may have been times you've grown up maybe with severe mental illness in your home, or where there's been other types of abuse. And it hasn't been safe for you to ask for what you need. Or you might have even come from a family that looks really intact, that looks really good on the outside. Two parents that have been very busy building their empire, and yet you've grown up not having anybody really ask you what you want or what you need. And so we grow up with this idea that I don't deserve the right to ask. I'm not that important. I don't matter. I'm insignificant. Heartbreaking. But if I believe that I don't deserve the right to ask, that my opinion doesn't matter, that my thoughts don't matter, that my needs don't matter, it keeps us from actually pushing through and risking through that fear of asking, and it can disable us before we ever get started. Another one that is really common is it'll never work. Right? And I often, when I say this one, it's like I hear Eeyore. Eeyore, Disneyland, it'll never work, right? It's that no matter what I do, I think that it's never going to work. And so it kind of zaps the winds out of our sails. It kind of keeps us from pushing through or risking, or maybe even figuring out a different way that we can ask. I'm not talking about someone where a situation you've been asking, and someone is just blatantly saying no. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a blocking belief that says it'll never work, because maybe you've had other situations where it hasn't worked. And so again, it's like putting up the white flag of surrender before you even press through the fear of asking for what you need. And the last one is another one of those boulders that often gets in the way. And it's, I can't do this. I'm not strong enough. I'm too weak. And this can come from families where we have been very disempowered, where there's been somebody that has overpowered us, where we felt powerless and helpless. Again, we can have grown up in families where our voice hasn't mattered, or where there's abuse or alcohol, drugs. And so that idea that I'm helpless and I can't get what I need keeps us in more of a victim position. And we might blame others. We might say, well, if this person were a certain way, then I could ask. Or it's not fair. I'm not able to get what I need because of this reason or that reason. There's nothing I can do about it, is another thing that comes up in this blocking belief that I can't do it, I'm powerless. So as long as those boulders are in the way, they actually keep us from getting empowered and getting our needs met, because we're actually exerting ourselves to ask and getting ourselves the help we need. So stay tuned, there's more. I'm going to be actually talking next about what are 5 elements of an intentional ask. What does it look like? How can I do it? And so stay tuned and give us a call at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
It's hard to find a trusted friend when you're in crisis. Someone who's been there and understands, but who also has the training and skill to give you practical help. Family, friends, and churches want to help, but often they're not equipped to care for those dealing with problems like addiction and pornography, infidelity, anger, depression. New Life Ministries is here to provide help and hope in life's hardest places. We're not focused on making people feel better. We're focused on helping people do the work that will help them be better. At New Life, we have resources available to help you, like books, DVDs, CDs, workshops, and our network of licensed counselors. If you need help, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and begin your new life today. Life recovery isn't just about making the courageous choice to give up an addiction or dependency. It's a journey towards health, wholeness, and becoming your very best you. If you need resources to help you in your journey, we can help. There are many life recovery resources that you can do on your own, with a group, or with your church. We have Bibles, workbooks, and devotionals that you can use to work your recovery right where you are. That's the beauty of life recovery. To learn more or to get the Life Recovery Bible or any other life recovery resource, visit liferecoverytoday.net or call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
Welcome back. Maybe you can relate to what Sherry's talking about there. Communication is challenging, certainly challenging for me with attention deficit disorder all my life. But as we learn to understand, we can learn to kind of clear the way. We can experience help, and we can get the hope that we need in our relationships, because hope comes through understanding, connecting, and communicating. So I hope you can see why I respect Sherry so much. But I want to go back and then I'll be back with some closing thoughts about this wonderful video on clear as a bell. Now, wouldn't it be great if everything that you said could be clear as a bell? Well, it isn't, and that's why we need information like this. And I'm going to challenge you, listen for what applies to you. Take what you need and just leave the rest, as we say in some of our self-help groups. But this is going to be great, and I'll be back with a little challenge for you. Do you have a stress ball? If you need one, I'll try to get you one if you get in touch with me at newlife.com. Here's Sherry.
Sherry Keffer here. Great to be with you. And I'm going to break down these 5 elements of an intentional ask. Now, the good news is you don't have to do these in order. It's really 5 different things that you can do to help bolster your strength in learning how to ask for what you need. And the funny thing is, some of them may seem really simple to you when you hear them, when I tell you about them, but some of them, as simple as they seem, end up being kind of more challenging to actually implement. So I'm going to break it down into pieces, and hopefully as we kind of look at these 5 pieces, we can begin to put them together as we're looking at asking for what we need. So the very first one is be as clear as a bell. And you know what? I love this bell. You know why I love this bell so much? Because it rings, but it's big. It's like when we think about being as clear as a bell, you don't want any questions as in light of what you're actually needing and how it would benefit you. So I was sitting with someone the other day, and they were really nervous about asking their husband for something. And as she began to talk, she kind of her voice went down a little smaller. She even didn't look at him. She kind of was trying to sort out in her head what she wanted. And then she was pretty vague in what she was asking him for. And I was watching him, and he was listening, but he was kind of listening, and there was some confusion as to what he was listening for. And so being as clear as a bell means using all our words. It means clearly stating what we need. It means giving a reason for why that would benefit our relationship, benefit myself, and how it would be helpful in some part of the journey. So I have some friends of mine, and I talked about them in my book, Intimate Deception. And she had a husband who had gotten caught in a bathroom sexually acting out with somebody, an undercover cop. And so he came home, and actually because of that, wasn't able to drive. He had been using some substances as well, and so he was not able to drive his car. Well, she called me, and she was really upset. She said, you know what? I now have to take him to work, and I'm getting up in the morning and making all the kids' lunches and everything else that I'm doing. And I looked at her and I said, so you're taking him to work? And she said, well, yeah, he's got to get there somehow. Her ask was basically, she didn't have a clear ask. Her ask was like, okay, hurry up and get in the car because I need to drive you somewhere. It had nothing to do with how difficult his decision had made her life. And she was getting up like an hour earlier to try to get the kids ready. So when we unpacked it, I said, so have you ever thought of having a different ask. And she said, what do you mean? And I said, well, what would help you go back to the way you were before he was caught acting out? And she said, well, I'm not even sure. And I said, so I have one word, 3 letters. I said, B-U-S, bus. I said, what would it be like for you to ask him to take a bus to work? It's a great opportunity for him to reflect on what he had done, to feel the consequences of his actions, and to begin to really meditate on what he wanted to do that was different. It's as if I rang the bell, right? You could see the nickel drop. And she went, oh my goodness, I never thought of asking for that. Again, asking for something is being really clear and saying what it will help me with. I'd like to ask you to take the bus. Ever since then, I've been losing lots of time in the morning, and it's been really stressful on me in order to get the kids where they need to go. I would like to have you take the bus, and that will enable me to be back on track with the family schedule that we have. So again, she clearly asked and then shared the benefit. And then actually, guess what happened? He took the bus. It can happen. So adjusting the water pressure. So you might ask, all right, so what does water pressure have to do with asking for anything? Well, let me explain. So when we're on the heels of being impacted by sexual betrayal, or maybe there's been a situation in our relationship where we've had a tremendous loss and our heart is really grieved and we're not sure what is going to happen in this relationship that we're in. Or maybe you're living with an addict and they're continuing to use. We had someone today on New Life who called and her husband was addicted to cocaine, right? These are really tough situations that we're in, and we need to be able to bring what we need into the equation so that we don't get lost in the situation, don't get overwhelmed by what's happening around us. And so at those moments, sometimes what happens is the impact of it all, our self-worth is in the dumper. I mean, we don't feel good about ourselves. We're scared to ask. In the case of betrayal, right? It's like, I feel like I'm not enough. I might feel like I'm powerless, or I don't deserve to ask, or I can't even trust that this person's going to hear me. All those things, all that shame stuff comes to the surface. So what happens is our asking may end up looking like an IV drip. So think about it. An IV drip, like in the hospital, is more like just little drips of water coming out. The water pressure is very low. It might be just barely keeping you alive. So we might ask, but we're asking in a way that makes us invisible. We may feel dispensable, or we may even feel used. But when we ask like drips, we might struggle to speak our mind, right? We might struggle to bring our words. We might talk about a problem all around the problem. We might talk about it over and over again. But finding our voice is a really important process about learning how to manage what I'm bringing to the other person. Our ask, it might be hard for some of us because maybe we've never even asked for what we've needed, or we have and it's just fallen flat because someone isn't listening. So I often say, figure out what you need and then know what you want to ask for and practice it with some safe people. Actually put it into a sentence with a friend, a good friend, and ask them how that felt. Right? Because oftentimes we might kind of hedge and go, well, I was wondering, I'm not really happy with what's been going on. And so I'm really have been upset and I'm kind of nervous and I'd really want you to stop. Right? Now, you're saying things, right? But there isn't a clear amount of water pressure. So it's not going to garner the respect of somebody else who is on the other end of that and who's going, I'm not sure what she needs, right? Or I'm not sure what he needs. So think about it. If you're one of those folks that struggles more like an IV drip to have your words and thoughts and intentions known, then get into a safe place. Get into some counseling. Practice with a friend. Get into a recovery group, a 12-step recovery group where each week, I did this, each week you sat in a circle and you had to bring something of yourself. Not had to, but they invite you to bring something of yourself into the group. So I had to practice thinking about what I was going to say. And that did such a good work in my life to make me feel stronger in presenting what was important to me. Because I had all these other people in the group that were listening. No one was allowed in those 12 steps group to talk back. So it gave me a platform to practice. Think about it. And give us a call at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
Even when we're pressed, there's still hope that our life will change. In James 1:5, and by the way, that little Life Recovery Bible, 12 Steps, a lot of that is based on what comes right out of James. But James 1:5 says, if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault. You ask, and it will be given to you. I think a lot of people think they're disqualified from God wanting to encourage them or provide them with wisdom. I think a lot of people think God is this distant being because I've gotten so much wrong about my life. Well, there's a person that supports New Life because he says, if God can work with Steve, he can work with anybody. Now, I really do think that God's grace is the only reason that I can be in ministry and move forward. And I'm so grateful that He is a God of mercy. But really, seek Him, ask Him, and you will be found by Him. Ask for His wisdom, but don't just ask. Get that Life Recovery Bible, read some of it every day, read the notes, and I think you will become wise. Some of the wisest people, best theologians ever, people I've done Bible studies with in maximum security prisons, and their Life Recovery Bibles are more duct tape than they are cover anymore. But man, they read it and they know things, and it's really impressive. So I hope something today, it's encouraged you. If you need help, you call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. And thanks for watching this. And I'm going to be right back here next week with another guest giving you some really good information. See you.
Thanks for joining us for Life Recovery Today, where we believe your past doesn't have to define your future. If you're ready to take the next step, we're here to help with Bibles, workbooks, devotionals, and more. Visit newlife.com or call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Your journey to healing and freedom can start right now. Until next time, stay hopeful, stay courageous, and keep moving forward.